have the energy to solve. Did anyone else try to do?
I tried Metro.
You tried Metro Alt. How far did you get? The cube and not much farther?
It was not supposed to be creating the queue.
Oh, okay. We should do that much. Let's see if we can do that.
I was not given the exact relationship between
If we fail, we fail. But this is, as I said, these are important skills, but we're even doing it. You can see how hard this stuff can get. And this is simple compared to what a real life thing of this might be, because we're only bringing in one data source. Typically, in this kind of thing, you're bringing in, for the cube, you're bringing in data from all over the place, from non-relational databases, from spreadsheets, from other databases, and you're trying to put it all into this big warehouse where you can do the analysis. So the SSIS and all of that gets much more complex. That being said, you could do it. It would take a lot of practice. And what we're doing is simpler than that. And it's still complicated. So it is video. The video is running. I'm going to get the data tools. And again, they won't guarantee things will work, partially because the structure of Metro Alt I don't think is necessarily good. The other, it's just, as I said, it's really complicated. And I always do this like just in the summer. One of these days I'm going to try to spend like a whole 2 quarters before this class trying to get really deep into this. It's just that I never seem to have time.
It's like data warehouse is something you can have like a whole core, a whole class.
Oh, you certainly could. I mean, the trouble with the database thing in general, but also just our program in general, is that there is an infinite amount of stuff to cover in a very limited amount of time. And the businesses, they all want you to have like a PhD level of knowledge with a pay grade from a community college. Is what they really want. If you go to we have technical advisory committee meetings where you get people from industry. They really want full on computer science majors at a graduate level, but they would like to get them at a community college pay scale. They're not very realistic about just physical time constraints and how much stuff there is. Even computer science majors don't have most of this stuff. In fact, they do very little of this stuff manually. They may have a better understanding of the theory of it. They may have a better understanding of the mathematics behind it, but they probably haven't done it hands-on much at all.
I took some discrete mathematics and set theory and game.
Those are actually good for database.
And it never seemed to really directly apply to the work I did.
So, not that we necessarily need to go there right now, but generally the math is really useful if you are writing database software. So like if you were making the next version of SQL Server, or you're trying to create your own up and coming database software, the math is really useful. It's also useful for optimization. Sometimes when queries are really complicated, if you reduce it to a math equation, what is happening, you can see where the issues are. That's about the only time I can think of where the math becomes really significant in it. But that's exactly what databases are made of, is discrete predicate algebra and set theory primarily. Although in books you'll see things like relational algebra and relational calculus as well.
Well, we didn't cover that in the classes I took. So.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, those are things you might cover at a computer science thing. But again, they're so high level, so theoretical, they don't necessarily help you write an actual query. But they may help you analyze why a query isn't working properly. So we're going to do a new project.
Okay.
And it will be an analysis service, multi-dimensional data thing. I also, if you're really interested, have like a 3-book set on how to do this. But they're really thick books and they're fairly dated because they're from 2005. I'd have to go look. I could bring them in maybe on break if you want.
Call it like Metro Cube.
Yeah, we could call it Metro Cube. Sounds like a good name.
This is analysis services, right?
Yeah, this is analysis service, multidimensional. Okay. Now, I have never tried the tabular project, and that's another thing. If you're doing this, if you think that this is a route you want to go, I would play with both of these, probably with the AdventureWorks database that comes with from Microsoft. I know that they've got that tutorial because we were doing it for this. I'm sure there's probably a tutorial for this. And you could, just work your way through it. Also, if you want video tutorials, there tends to be tons of stuff on YouTube, besides mine, much better ones. And then there's also, Microsoft has a thing called, it's not Cloud9, because that's a,
Azure.
no, it's not their, they have like
It's not a cloud.
they have like maybe Studio 9, that might be the name of it. Basically, it's an in-house Microsoft. They make videos showing how to do things, and it's available to the public. And they have thousands of videos about doing fairly complicated things. I'll look for the actual site. So, Metro Alt Cube. And I'm going to kind of follow, we'll see what we get. But the very first thing will be, of course, to create a data source. And I'm going to right-click, New Data Source. And I have a Metro Alt DW data source, and it's probably fine. Do you want to make a new one? Do you guys have that?
I have it.
Yeah.
Might as well.
This is because we used it for the SSIS, right?
Is there a reason why we shouldn't use that as a data source?
None that I can think of, as long as we didn't make any mistakes back then. So I'm just going to accept that then and do next. Let's use the service account.
Which one are you using?
Local service. We did all that last time, right? So it should be good still. This part always confused me when I first was playing with this, because everything would fail, and it was always a permissions failure. And basically, you either have to create the account that you see in the service thing, because it doesn't exist, it just assigns an account, or you have to use the service account. And the credentials of the current user never seem to work. I don't know why it's an option. So I'm going to do next. And Metro Alt DW sounds fine. I'm going to finish. So we have a data source. You guys are good with that? Again, those dialog boxes are pretty familiar from a lot of other things. Question or? Did you ever figure out your analysis service thing?
Yeah, I reloaded the program.
And you got them?
Yes.
I wonder why it was giving us a chance to just add them.
I don't know.
Isn't that about the 13th time? So I'm going to do a new data source view. Every one of these has a wizard. And I don't know, the only way to avoid the wizard is if you want to write it all in XML. And C#. C# to execute the XML, basically. So we'll do the same data source. And I think, so which ones do we want? I usually bring them all, but maybe that doesn't make sense. What do we want to look for?
Well, we need the fact for sure.
We need the fact table for sure. Do we want to look at which routes? Well, let's do bus. Let's do everything except employee. I don't think we need employee for the main route. So I'm going to bring these over. I'm going to do next. So everything except employee. We could do an analysis. We could do a fact table where we try to figure out what the employee is doing, and study them. But I think what we're going to look at is just schedules and money and things like that. All right. So that's our complete thing. I'm going to finish. Wasn't there a thing? So we did this, right? And then they skipped the cubes and went to the dimensions. So we might do the dimensions next.
Yeah, I don't remember why I didn't do this time. I did that diagram to show.
Did it work this time?
Yeah, well, I reinstalled everything this weekend. Everything.
Everything. It's amazing to me how often these reinstalls happen. It never seems to happen to me at home. I'm not sure why, but I do see it a lot. Different things. All right. Let's look at our dimensions. So we do a new dimension. Next. And we want to base it on an existing table. And we want to, I think instead of bus, let's do date. We probably will do each of them. I think one of the things that sometimes happens in my cubes is that you end up just seeing numbers. Like you select, instead of what year it is, you select the number for that year. And I think that's because I used to skip this stage of defining the dimensions. I assumed they were defined in the database. So I didn't think I had to redefine them here. But I think you do have to redefine them here. So I'm going to do the date first.
So we didn't do friendly names, or?
We could. Do you want to do friendly names?
You know, I was just curious why we didn't do it, so. Let's skip it if it's not necessary.
So the attribute is the dim date key. Select the dimension attributes and enable browsing. So we want the actual date, the year, and the month. We actually just want all of those, right? I'm going to do next. I'm going to finish. And then we have all of these over here. There's really no reason why I would need to drag these over, right? Because they're already over here. So I'm not sure if I'm gaining anything. What's the blue underline? I'll create hierarchies in the non-parent child dimensions. Now, I don't know if we can create a hierarchy right now. If I were to do, it would probably be year, month, and date, right? If we were to create a hierarchy of that. And we have this warning. What is the warning? Attribute relationships don't exist. Now, this is stuff I did when I was playing on the tutorial, but it may cause everything to fail if I do it, because that's where I failed. But let's try. When they say, so a hierarchy is where you're trying to say that a month is part of a year, right? And a date is part of a month. So you're trying to create a relationship between those things in a hierarchy. The attribute relationships are here. So we have the date for all of these, but we don't have these as schedule. See, I'm going to see if I can do this. So I'm going to do year, new attribute relationship, and I'm going to do it to month. And then I'm going to do month, and I'm going to do new attribute relationship, and I'm going to do it to the date. And what it does is it creates a relationship that there's the key, there's the year, the month belongs to the year, the date belongs to the month. I don't know if that'll work. For instance, the full date has month, date, and year. I'll also tell you that getting rid of this, if you make a mistake, is just a pain. I have a lot of trouble with it.
How do you like delete that relationships that it imposes on it?
If you do the new one, it'll add it. It'll just remove it.
Just delete the.
No, you don't have to delete anything.
Oh, I see.
So now where did you define the relationships again?
This is in the attribute relationships.
Okay.
Dimension structure, attribute relations, translations. I wonder though if the date is in the wrong place. Let's look at what it says back here. Still got a, it might just need to be updated. I'm not sure about the position of the date. That would be the position for the day. I'm not sure if it's a position for the whole date. Does that make sense? I wonder if date should be at the top. What do you think? If you're thinking of a hierarchy. Let's put the date at the top. I think I can do that by just going here, new attribute relationship, and I'm going to do that. Whoa, I want this one gone. No, that just left it the way it was.
What would happen if you tried to drag it over again?
I don't think it'll.
So I've got, my boxes aren't connected in a line. Mine have got 3 lines coming out of the date key, the due date key, going to each of the other boxes.
That seems
More like a hierarchy,
hierarchy to me, yeah.
but it's different stuff.
Yeah, that seems like what it should be.
And then if I do a new added, and then if I do the month, I don't want it going back and forth. And then I want, actually, so year should be next.
So do you not have that there? You go to the,
What is it doing?
What's the end goal?
like,
Is it to go date to year to month to date to schedule assignment date?
Yeah. Is that what we want there?
There's no errors.
yeah.
Can delete on for once. That bound happens sometimes. So,
I'm deleting all the relationships and then I will put them back in.
using the data version software.
Okay, then I'm going to do to year.
Date key.
And then I'm going to do to month. I think that works better. Date, year, month. I'm going to go back to the designer to see if it's happy. I mean, not the designer, to the dimension structure. It might need a refresh. The other thing is, didn't we need to, on the properties for each of these, or it wasn't properties, what was it that we did to assign the different data types?
Oh,
Is it in here? Or is
Maybe
it?
there's someone on the
Oh,
phone.
there's a wizard.
Mr. Wizard.
Yeah.
Mr. Wizard.
You change the type all day.
Where?
In the basic section, type is.
Oh, the type. And does it give us? Yeah, and that gives us like the.
It's a little behind before your time.
But so it goes to date,
Right.
calendar, date. And then I'm going to do the month and right click on properties. For some reason it's not staying there. We can pin it if you want, although that makes it. So we go down to basic, type. This one is currency, not currency, date, calendar, month. Is it months or just months? There's no month without. What does it not like about these? Maybe you can't set this. It says it can't. What is it not like? So I'm probably just screwing things up. We may have to start over. Processing. Oops. Where was it? So what is, if the date dimension, what about the date dimension is not,
You change it.
type is regular and it needs to go to time? It's the only one I see.
I'm not getting that error on regular.
You're not?
I'm getting an error on the bus schedule month after I change it to months.
So now I'm not getting an error on,
You change it to time.
yeah. And then a year, I should be able to do that again with the properties, type, date, calendar, years.
I can't get any of those. All I just get is time. That's like really down.
Well, so you have to select each one, right? And then right click on it, and then properties,
So
and then it's under basic type, date,
it's, I see, so date.
calendar, and actually, I don't need to change this. This one should be left regular. Just year, month, and date. Avoid visible attribute hierarchies for attributes.
Mine just has the blue stuff
Yeah, I have the blue stuff too. I
on
just,
the date.
so did you change the date itself? When I did date, there's a thing that says time. I changed the type to time.
Mine is just a
Regular. Mine doesn't have the time.
We should say regular, and you have
Yeah.
there should be a drop-down list if you
There's
click.
only key in on the usage you're talking about.
So you've got, well, first of all, do dim date, not the top one. that one. And then type.
This one.
Yeah. I don't know if this will work, so I may be digging us a deep hole.
I think you're gonna, your line here is not compatible with a regular energy type.
Right, so I'm in
It's updating, a big update.
I go to the type, instead of regulation. That clears up the ones below. It still has a warning, and the warning seems to be on the hierarchy itself, which we could just delete. We did that though. We made the attributes things there. I'm going to save all, and then I'm going to go back and see if that it didn't help. So we're going to leave that for a moment. What I'm going to do is go back and create another, do the other dimensions, and we'll see what happens. All right, if it all bombs, we may just go to lunch early. Or we can start over and they skip this part.
Another dimension?
Yeah, so I'm going to do a new dimension. And I'm going to use an existing table. Let's do bus. And we can add all of the different fields. And I'm just going to do next, and I'm going to do finish. I'm not going to make a hierarchy here. I think this one's okay. What is we still have the little curly thing. Create hierarchies in non-parent child dimensions. But I don't really see a natural hierarchy here. Again, my data may be a little funky.
Maybe description and price.
Description there.
Yeah, and we probably don't need description, actually. So I may just pull that one out. Can I do that? Yeah, we don't need description. All right. So I'm going to do another dimension without a hierarchy. Because they made the cube without hierarchies in the tutorial.
We don't need to change any of the types.
I don't think so. They're all pretty well. So
Besides price.
perch the price. Yeah, we might look at the properties for that. Type. So if I do it as currency, I think so. None of those are saying that it's a number. They're not formatting it as currency. They're saying that it's like a currency code, like is it pounds or euros or whatever. So I don't think I'm going to change that. So we have another dimension. Existing table. Instead of bus this time, I'll do route. Now we could if we could make a relationship. I don't know how we do this between bus and route. I'm going to add the bus route zone to. Yeah, there is a relationship between bus route and route that I maybe should make, but let's not for now. So, and then we'll do the last dimension. Existing table. and we'll do the schedule. And we don't really care about the, do we care about the bus schedule assignment key? We do want, do we want the bus driver shift key? I don't know. I'm looking at that and thinking, I'm really not sure. So I've done the dimensions. I just basically put most of the stuff in there. I didn't put the employee key because we're not doing the employee right now. So I have the hierarchies. They all have blue lines. That could be that's warning, and it could be a fatal warning if things go wrong. I'm going to try a cube. Going to right click, do a new cube. We're going to use an existing tables. We want all of these. We can suggest which is the, actually it says dim bus and dim schedule as facts. And the reason for that is bus has the price per type, right? I think that may be a flaw in my design. It probably should have gone into the fact table. I'm going to not do it. I'm just going to do just the fact table. Because I'm afraid it would just confuse things. I'm going to do next. Those all look like good facts. I'm going to do next. Next. I'm going to finish. Now in the fact table, if we do this, this is where you can go through and you can kind of format the numbers here. So writers is just an int. Let's look at what we've got for properties on each of these. So actually, so data type inherited, that's probably fine. Fares per route. I want the properties again. I should just pin that. Data type inherited. It is currency, but we could just click on it to make sure it's currency. Fact schedule count. I think that's just an integer. So the fares per route are the is the currency. So we've changed all of that. All right. I'm going to try to process this cube. This is where everything may fail. So I'm going to go actually to the top, and I'm going to first do a deploy. This, as I said, may fail utterly, or it may work. We'll see. It failed. So what did it fail on? Oh, it's having trouble connecting to the local host. Did you guys have that? We said to run under, you know what? We said to run under service, but you know what we didn't do? We didn't add service to Metro Alt as a user. Right, so we need to add it to Metro Alt. So I'm going into the SQL Server. In a way, that's good. That's an easy fix compared to other errors that it could be. Yeah. So in here under databases, Metro Alt DW, I guess I'm running under Metro Alt DW, not DW1. Security, users. I'm going to add a new user. And it's going to be a user map Windows user. The username is, the login name is going to be, if you want to search, you can do advanced. Find now. I'll go through this again. Local service. Okay. Okay. Login name. just going to say local. Well, actually, we can look here. I wonder if I needed anyway, browse, and we want NT local service. I just didn't want to type it again. The default schema, I'm not sure if that matters, but under membership, I want to make them data readers at a minimum. So I'm going to cancel all this and do it again, just so you can follow through. If you're done, you don't have to cancel. All right, so I want a new user.
Still fails.
Oh, shouldn't. I want a Windows user. It could fail for other reasons. Yeah. So here, where we want the object name, I'm going to do advanced find now. You want the local service account. Same with the login name. Browse local service. Membership data reader. All right. So let's see what other reasons it can fail.
Key. NT only local service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same message.
Well, it's a different message. Oh, actually, it is the same message.
Yeah, localhost server could not connect.
Minus if call.
That should work. The other thing I'm going to do, connect analysis services, connect. Oh. So let me go into, going to right click, computer management. My analysis server doesn't seem to be running. Oh, actually it is. Oh, but it's not localhost. All right, so I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to go to deployment, and it is not localhost. ITC224_6. And it may need the whole name. You localhost should work for you.
So localhost.
So I right-clicked, and I did properties, and I went to deployment, and I did ITC224_6. It may need more than that. It may need the machine name as well. So I'm going to try again, see what other errors I can get to. Deploy. It's taking longer. I think it may have connected.
Yeah, mine's in the not responding. It's too. I'll still look on it.
Now it still couldn't connect. All right. So let's do this again. I'm going to get the whole server name. So it's probably some 17 SQL -A/. ITC 224_6. I'm going to connect here just to make sure that's correct. So that connected. I'm not going to reconnect. I'm just going to steal that. So I said it's okay. Editors in the metadata. The type of data for fares per route must be the same as its source data type.
I changed it back to inherited.
And it worked.
No. Yeah, well, I got new errors.
It works for me.
It worked on yours. What did you change it back to inherited, or you'd never changed it, or?
I just changed the local thing there, so you did that there. In the properties of Metro.
So it can't be currency.
No.
So I got 5 errors instead of 1. No connectivity problems, but
So what did you have it as a type?
I changed it back to inherited on the bottom. And then I got 6 errors, 5 warnings.
All right, let's see what I get now. Okay, so I got
yeah, that's
the current was another thing.
yeah,
Dim
that's-
bus key dimension. What are the errors for these, I wonder? Let's go back to dim date. Although, were any of the errors dim date?
I have one. Errors in the OLAP storage and an error occur when the bus schedule month attribute of the dim date dimension from the ledger alt queue database is being processed.
I had similar errors.
What I want to do is see if I can just delete the hierarchy, which should delete the attribute relations, but it didn't. Let's just leave that. Let's see what happens. Now that's the only hierarchy we made, right?
Yeah.
But there were other errors. It's weird, I've managed to make this work before. I'm down to 2 errors. A duplicate attribute key has been found when processing the table dim date and bus schedule year. The attribute is bus schedule year. Let's go back to the hierarchy. So I'm going to do date again.
I haven't changed any attribute relationship the way you did. I just went with the default one and
You did what?
I haven't changed the attribute relationship like you did. Whatever came default, I executed it.
Right.
And then my,
So if I get rid of these,
by default, it gives a different structure, right?
what structure does it give?
So I would like dim date key is related with bus schedule month, bus schedule year, and bus assignment key.
In this?
Yeah.
So the dim
So there
date
should be 3 arrows.
from dim date.
Yeah, from dim date. That's me. The initial one which you have got.
So back to dim date
No, this is fine in the dimensions.
dimensions. Oh, here. Dim date which field are you looking at?
If you go to dimensions and dim date, then on the right hand side. Yeah. On the way. Okay. Yep. This one. So this one is for me. There are 3 arrows being connected from dim date key.
So it's not inheritance. It's just
Oh, so
three separate ones.
so remove this one maybe.
Yeah. So you can create the hierarchies in the dimension structure. Just remove this one.
And then do
One to bus schedule here.
bus schedule assignment date or bus schedule.
Yeah, bus schedule assignment date is also there.
Does it?
I will show you.
That doesn't allow me to do. Yeah, let me see what you got. So you've got dim date key. And then you go to dim month, bus schedule month.
Yeah. And dim date key should be what you do is just delete all your one. I did that like that.
This one, this one.
In the dimension structure, I've just created like this. Yep. You don't have any hierarchy over here.
No, I deleted it.
Yeah, so you need to do it like year, month, and the date.
So I just had it in the wrong order.
Uh,
So I need to do like
this is fine. Why there is red mark over the year? I don't have any red mark. Did you
oh
change it to
no.
year?
So let's go back to the.
Just delete everything from here. That's
It won't let me actually delete that.
You're not saying how to read it.
So let's go back
There's
to
you see the attribution relationship in the bottom?
yeah.
And that one, not that one. Yeah, just erase it.
Oh, so this one if I do
Just erase it both.
yeah. Just delete.
That one's,
Click.
and you will be able to
Now I can-
start a relationship. It's like
so make the hierarchy.
Okay, he's saying the other way, like connect over here, right? In this
It's
window.
like right click it, indicate key, start adding a relationship back. Yeah.
But everything needs to be connected with dim date.
Mine works.
All right.
Like the
So
other way. Yeah, so this is the structure for me as
Yeah.
well. What he did is he has connected the one over the other.
Yeah, so that's the one he needs to be changed.
Yeah.
it won't let me undo that now. So all right. So you did the month.
So everything is connected
This
with
is
dim
good.
date. Yeah.
But see what it's doing online.
Mhm.
You just right click again, indicate key,
On the dim date.
just add new. Now you can just keep adding.
And just keep adding over
Year.
the date
You already have months.
and then the date. Just right. And then, yep,
That's
this
right.
is fine, assignment date.
That's different though. I mean, it basically created a hierarchy there.
Yeah, that's it. And so the
And if you go in the dimension structure, what it's showing, so I have created over here as well. And then it automatically got created.
Right.
dim date key basically.
So if I drag
Yeah.
a dim
So
date
it's not
over here.
hierarchy.
Schedule, but schedule year,
Oh, you started with the year?
yeah, year, month, and then the date.
Right, but you had the name of the thing is,
Actually, deploy works actually. Relationship.
it does. Well, let me try. Let me try to deploy first.
It's not that this is.
Yeah, I think it is going to deploy. Thank you.
Yes.
No, it's actually you have to do it and the
It
Should I take a
deployed.
Screenshot of that or?
Sure.
What was the last thing you did?
All right, so what we did,
You made the hierarchy.
right, so it deployed. So what I did is everything is related to this.
Yeah.
Dim date being I have date, month, year. To delete them, and this I didn't have, but you have to delete them down here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just what I named it.
And then,
So it's just a direct relationship. Everything has a relationship with the date key.
Yeah.
Not the way I was trying to string them along.
yeah, and then you can do anything else after that?
No, so I didn't, the hierarchy is still gone. I had deleted the hierarchy, although there were hierarchies that worked too, so.
I get your output. No, lost over here. It's not taking the name.
Did you make that as a user last time? Let's get a log. Before we look at
Damien?
the
Can I use it?
Yeah, but I'm not really, not here working.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so right click on it. This is the property. So you do use it in the servers or the database. So I think just click on it. And then, get up there and read it. Oh, yes, that should be the same. All right, so it deployed. If we look at the browser, what do we have? 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is still the Dimension browser. I want to look at the cube. And I want to look at the browser in the cube. And we should be able to do a little bit of analysis here. And then we could try to go farther. I don't know. So if we select a dimension, like what bus? And so what we need to do, there's no real, we'll do the bus key. Bus key equals, and we'll just give it a number. I think it has a whole bunch of numbers. So let's do bus. Anybody have a favorite bus number?
14.
14.
Not Baker.
7.
Okay, 7, yeah. We don't have any parameters. So we would need to measure, like, say we wanted to measure, let's look at our measures. If we wanted to know the fares per, well, let's look at riders. So it says there were 340,000 riders.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's probably over all 3 years. So one of the things we'd probably want to do is add a date. The hierarchy we would want, do we want year or month? Year equals, what is one of the years? Well, it will give it to us.
12.
See how the numbers reduce? So it's working.
What's the point for it? How did they have a point for it? Like a kid or something?
Well, so I'm not sure. So it's taking the fares times the ridership. And we didn't there's some things that we could do to format these, I think.
So cool.
What?
So cool.
It is cool, but this is still just the beginning. Yeah.
So the output,
This is the output. I drug riders and fares per route.
what does that mean? What is that for a specific date?
So it's for the year 2012 for the bus 14. So basically for that, now fares per route is maybe a little queerly named.
Is that when they paid on that? on
That's
the
how
bus?
much they pay. This should be this times the,
So transfers aren't counted then?
you know what, this isn't that sophisticated. My best is there are no transfers. It's just the count of the number of riders, whoever presumably tagged in, and it assumes that they've each paid a fare. In real life, it would get way more complicated, of course, because you would have
Orca cards,
transfers,
discount cards.
discounts, elderly discounts, student discounts, Yeah. It was hard enough to do this. If we were to look at something else, so, you could look, so let's do, instead of a bus, we could do route. And in the hierarchy, we could do the zone and equal, and it would give us the names of the cities.
And
So-
cross zone.
Right, and cross zone, which means it crosses more than one zone. So let's say Kent. And then notice it drops a lot. Now that might be a little bit bigger. How big is that? No, it's still pretty big. And that's the riders in Kent in 2012. And you could break that down. You could add some other things too. I'm not sure what though. We don't have a lot to play with.
You did take this from some real data, didn't you?
No.
It's dictionary.
I wrote loops in C# based on an arrays that I just invented.
Can you actually do this in complicated SQL?
Certainly. This query right here, it's kind of impressive how fast and neat it is, but this is not a hard SQL statement. The trouble is, as I said, this is just the beginning. So notice that there are mining structures, right? So mining structures gets into much more complex types of queries. This is really just doing a simple correspondence. We're just making more complicated where statements, right? Because we could do this one fairly easily. It would be just select these values from these tables where
City equals Kent.
bus route zone equals Kent and bus schedule year equal.
That sounds deceptively simple.
It is simple at this point, actually. But the thing is, you can do really complicated stuff with this. That being said, I'm going to right click on this. No, that doesn't do. I think I might have to go back to, would it be cube structure, dimensions, calculations? So even within this, before you move on to mining structures, you've got calculations. You can add calculated fields, right? I did the calculation in the initial dimension, but you could calculate it here. KPIs, which are my brain just went blank. They're program performance indicators. What is the K? Key performance indicators. So if you were analyzing something to see whether your profits were going up or going down, you could add that in there. Actions gives you can write a little bit of code to break things up. You can add some aggregations, like sum, count, etc. There's lots of different things that you can do with just this cube. And then, as I said, the mining structures is where you start actually applying statistical analysis to it. Yeah.
Mine's not simple. My query's not executing. Produce the results.
Well, what do you have? It could be that you got things that have no values.
Trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
data.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm just
Okay,
starting
so not down here. Oh, I see.
it.
So we're glad. These guys. Yeah, this is what But you have to drag from the top to the open up the back. Drag the so
You know what those two is? Yeah, it's dark still. Maybe they're under display options, there might be brightness.
There are places where you can format this too. Now, I haven't done, so you can add a new calculated field. And you can do some math here, right? KPIs. I forget what the exact, we would have to define them. We'd have to do a new KPI. We'd have to define what's good and what's bad, right? And how we want to display them. Partitions, it had to look, we have one partition. These can get complicated. You can have multiple partitions coming in as you do different things. We've only got one. The reason why we have one partition is we've only got one fact table. If we have multiple fact tables, there would be multiple partitions. As I said, the things we could do.
So that has nothing to do with file groups and.
No, this doesn't really have to do. It has more to do with logic, the logic of how things are divided in the structure. All of this being said, I'm not sure we could try. What do you want to try? We got it to deploy, thanks to you guys. Let's look at a new mining structure and see what we get. We may not get anything. So we want to do it from an existing database or warehouse. We could even do it from an existing cube. So I'm going to do that. Do we want to, this is where you get into the stats. So you've got association rules, clustering, decision keys, linear regression, logistic regression, naive Bayes, neural network, sequence clustering, or time sequence. Now, the trick to choosing one of those is you have to know what they mean.
Yeah. Well, that's statistician, that's
Isn't regression checking trends?
I've got a bajillion errors. And I don't know what's going on.
what it is.
I remember doing statistics, but I don't remember what matter out.
I'm getting type errors.
On what?
The
I wonder if you're going to do profit and cost curves.
not
Change
compatible
the
with
type.
regular.
Yeah, okay, so go back to the. Yeah, I won't promise that it'll get it.
It's a lot of people. Hierarchy problems.
Is there an automatic
I
option?
deleted the hierarchy.
Create hierarchy. I don't know if this is dimensional.
Change back to scoop that, look at how low that is, try dragging it there.
Oh, it deleted that. Okay. Well,
That's fine, so just add them back, the four, all from that one. What one do you think would be the most,
What about linear regression?
yeah, but what are we regressing? I'm thinking,
Ridership trends?
yeah, I guess. I don't think this will work. It works well for regression modeling. The algorithm is particular configuration of the Microsoft Decision Trees algorithm obtained by disabling splits in the whole regression formula. The algorithm supports the prediction of continuous attributes. We'll try it, but I don't know. Select a source cube. So we do want Metro Alt DW. Oh, select a cube dimension. Schedule. Select the attribute to be the key. Again, you have to know what you're doing. Apply the measures. Riders and fares per route. I have no idea. Anyone have a good guess? Anyone done stats?
A long, long, long time ago. And I didn't understand it when I did it, so. No, a lot of it I didn't understand.
So do you know linear regression?
I'm trying. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to process this. Yes, it failed. This error algorithm requires at least one predictable attribute, none found. Okay. So I'm going to delete that. We could try another one, but the trouble, as you can see, this is where it jumps from being really a really powerful tool. It's starting about there, but you have to have some understanding of the process.
No, it keeps doing this kind of thing.
That's fine.
Tree. It won't. Like between parent-child hierarchy, big hierarchies and non-parent-child hierarchies.
Those are warnings, so. So let's go back to the other one. Go ahead and play with a couple of those, but you know, if you want. I think usually I only get it as far as the cube, but as I said, all the interesting stuff happens after the cube. So let's go into local service. Now, are you doing it on RetroL2 when you do the login?
Yes. Yeah, that's the data source here.
Okay, so let's go back to the there. So in RetroL2, we got the information. Got the integrated local service record. Do properties. Do evolution. Your data reader.
So now look it. I'm not logged in correctly from here. Change that.
Oh, local host. We're not doing good with this. Set admin, what is it? Admin or summer SQL. Yeah. All right, I might try another one, but I'm basically shooting in the dark here. So we'll do it from an existing cube. We could make a new cube. Let's try just a time series. It won't do it. Oh yeah, it will. Okay, next. Select a source, so let's do date. Actually, let's go back. Schedule. Schedule assignment key. I don't have any attributes here. Yeah, so we need a predictable. Oh, so we have to say something that's predictable. I wonder if that would have worked last time. Oops, I gotta go back. It probably won't work. Oh, it did, but what did it give us?
That's a very valid question, I suppose. One that failed as soon as I added my name to it.
I'm just curious what I end up with here. Still working. The other one might have worked if I'd have made a checkbox for something that was predictable. I think the fair was predictable. So I might try the linear regression again too. If this. The fair is relatively predictable because it's the same. So it is. They're working now.
Yeah, deployed. I'm just playing with the thing. I just don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know how long this will take. So in terms of the assignment, if you can just get a shot of the cube, I would be happy. If you do more, you know, you can.
Like a screenshot like this.
Yeah. That can get you there. And if you don't get there,
Probably.
We can still get 15 points without a cube, so
what?
according to this, rubrics we can get.
I won't take it.
Okay, thank you.
Last time when we did the MeasureWorks one, you did something on control panel for permissions. Or
So what I did is I went into permission panel.
I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
So I went to the properties of the analysis server.
To the file explorer.
Actually, you can probably get it through File Explorer. I did a right click on the Windows thing and went to the computer. So right click on the computer. Yeah. And then I went to services and I don't really see the services.
The configuration.
Yeah. And then, the services. Hold on to the analysis service. Yeah, very good. Properties. And then, I changed it to built-in account. And then I chose local service. Okay. And then we made, and then I made sure the local service was added and has at least 3 privileges.
Oh, read.
Yeah.
And
It
that's
doesn't need
on
to write. It needs to be-
management service, management studio.
Yeah.
So I have,
So if I, go back to this, when you're doing this, how you would have.
Yeah, so I made
So
it.
creating a connection first. or
So I
then-
just, yeah, so I did, basically went through, I did a created a connection, although I used the same connection that we used for the SSI.
Okay.
And then,
It was just the server path thing that was error.
yeah, so I right clicked and I changed it to the, because it says local host, and we're not actually going to local host.
Right, okay, so change that first, right?
Yeah,
Then on the relationship,
we did a lot of different things.
I mean, I'll just- I'll go, I can go with that.
So
Yeah,
to grant them read privileges,
just add them to the.
This room is reserved.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is tomorrow, but you know what, if you don't get this to, I
Well,
don't know. Take any points off.
yeah, I'm gonna try.
This may never end. Just to let you know. This whole, what do you mean, like, oh, I see. But this, is there a real possibility this like blue screen there? No, it's just that there are some processes that when you have a lot of data, this is why you don't do it with a live database. This could take, hopefully it would not with this one, but it could take hours to run these statistical analysis against large data sets.
You can go back.
It can take forever. So,
I'm just not sure how this mining structure works.
but,
I'm not sure how this mining.
well, so the mining structure, the trick with the mining structure, it's comparing all this different data based on statistical models. And the problem with, for me at least, is you really have to understand the statistical, when they say, Bayesian, you need to know what that means.
So you want a marketing person to tell you what to do.
So you're looking, typically with this kind of thing, you are looking for something. You're trying to look for something in your, say, your marketing to customers that, what do they have in common? Because then you can pelt them with ads for that. So you're looking for things that give you an advantage. Or if you're doing this with like the CIA or NSA, you'll be looking for things that compare, how they, what phone calls they made, what
What books
contacts
they
they
took out
have.
of the library.
Yeah, right. What books they took out of the library to see if there's a pattern that adds up to what they want to look into. It looks for patterns. It looks for complex patterns. But you still have to know which statistical model to use, which I don't. I actually have been, I picked an old stats book out and been going through it again. I haven't done stats in 40 years, so. So I'm trying to review stats, and I might be better at this. While this is running, I'll go bring those other books in just to show, but they're a little old.
It's probably a different book now.
I took statistics when I was sleeping for first or not sleep college, not sleep college. And it was really, that was science class. I was statistics. There's a lot of calculus. Do profit curves and the cost curves and see where their costs are. Because that's the point that you, the best point is marketing. So, that's where our costs
Yeah.
Because you're making more money than it costs. Wow. I hate this. I want to be done. I'm tired. I especially, you know, when I would do something else, I would be so frustrated. I'm not doing good homework. I have other things I have to do.
I have to find the homework that I have. Web to
Build units
There's
class,
so much homework.
watching all the videos and.
So here are two books. This one, they're both 2005, Microsoft SQL Server Analysis Services. I actually had the woman, Pi Bateman, in my class. She didn't understand analysis services that well, though. She was mostly on the team to make sure their writing made sense. So she understood some things, but you know, the thing is that it's changed some since 2005. Yeah. And then this is Delivering Business Intelligence for 2005. I should get some updated books on these.
I'm sure they're expensive books.
They are, although they're usually willing, they used to be a lot more willing to send them than they are now.
So I know IBM documentation used to be very, very expensive.
Yeah. Usually for if you just claim you're going to maybe think about using them for a class, they usually send them for free. But they're a little bit tighter about that than they used to be. Because textbooks are really expensive. A lot of companies have quit printing them except electronically. Yeah.
Are you free to roam?
Yeah, this is still running. Yeah, run forever.
Okay.
But, you know, I really like it. Like the documentation I do,
So.
it's really not very difficult. And it's, you know, it times when it is very high cost. It's not one of the hourly rates that people are making right now. It's less than what I was making in the 90s. And the competition, right?
No, the thing
I
about
had problems with the
the thing about it is it only runs once.
Yeah.
And then it'll crash after that.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So I wonder how long. Doesn't have an estimate for how long.
Oh, and it's got 2, 3, you still got 2 or 3?
I think it's done 2 of 3, or it's working on the second of 3, one of the 2. So one of the reasons why this takes so long, so in the fact table here, there's 360,000 some rows, or 365,000 rows or so. And it's going through them in lots of different ways comparing. It's probably made even worse by the fact that my data is incoherent. I wish I could get the bus route data. I mean, if I had Metro's data, I'd have a really big data set.
They wouldn't give that out.
No,
would
they wouldn't. Most people won't give out their data as a problem.
I actually had an idea over the weekend for a sample database to build of like something that's like MetroHole, but for Washington State ferries. That'd be a good or a really bad idea.
That might be a good one. That'd probably be simpler.
Simpler? I don't know. Like you have to have a separate table for each route. I'm sure how you would relate.
No, you wouldn't necessarily have a separate table for each. You'd have a table of routes.
Okay.
And then you'd have a table of ferries, probably. And you'd have a table
Cars
of
and
terminals.
walk-on passengers.
yeah, you'd have probably,
Employees.
you might have captains and employees, and then you probably would have, that'd actually be a good exercise.
Terminals.
Maintenance
Yeah.
yards.
Terminals, schedules. Yeah. It would be complicated, but it wouldn't be as complicated as, I'm sure that Metro has terabytes of data,
Exobytes.
maybe. Because every time you tap a card
Oh, yeah.
on every bus, it's, it's recorded. It's all part of a huge wireless system. Not only that, and if it can't record it at that instant, it stores it locally until it can broadcast it. And then they also have, every bus is transponding where it is at every moment.
Yeah, for those.
And that's probably in the
Bus away.
database too.
That's for like, yeah, one bus away and stuff like that.
Yeah, so when you look at an app and it says that a bus is, every bus has a transponder saying where it is and when it's coming. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of data there. All the fare information, all the different, so if you have an Orca card and you register, you can update it, right? Well, you can do it anyway. So what is the advantage of registering? I know they have people register.
Because I
I can
think
turn
you
it
can
off.
pay it, you can pay it, yeah, I think you can turn it
Turn
off.
off if you lose it.
Oh,
I think
and you can pay it online.
automatically, yeah.
Yeah. The advantage to them is they get customer data. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's almost as big a database as it's like cell phone type databases and stuff. Particularly if all the transponder stuff is in there. Although they may not be in the same database. Like the transponder
Of course,
sometimes
yeah,
goes on
and if you
database.
collected from all the cell phone companies, not just one, it would be.
Yeah, which is what the NSA was doing.
But Snowden revealed that.
Yes. Other, when you talk about that, just I had another idea for a database, which would be, well, all the shipping. Port of Seattle again, those are gigantic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Every container has a number.
I'm sure every trailer has a number too, like they scan it,
Yeah.
scan the container, scan the trailer.
and there's probably shared containers, so if you have to keep track of whose stuff is in which container.
I hope this
And
shows
then when
something
they drop it
interesting.
off, it gets probably gets scanned again.
That's just.
Screensaver.
That's like,
If this isn't done, this is probably the last thing I can use is
oh, it's good.
virtual machines.
You got moved down.
What did you get?
Hmm?
I don't know.
Oh, this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you do? I suspect that there's something to drive it.
So if you're done with everything, then you don't have to come back.
So just do.
Oh,
Yeah, what is that? And is there, let's look at the mining model predictions here.
that's sweet, right?
I think Wednesday is supposed to be the last day of actual classes.
Right.
Next Wednesday,
This Wednesday, yeah, this is the end of the quarter this week.
But it sounds like Steve
So,
might come in.
select the case table.
Yeah, he said he was.
I'm
gonna
not
have
sure.
to
We
move
have to
tomorrow.
look at this. Maybe drag in the fares for lunch.
Or maybe,
Of course, the rooms are
Just drag it into the.
Well,
queue.
but one from one. So they come in.
So.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Or I could do it tonight. during the-
I just went ahead and submitted the slideshow for presentation.
Oh, cool.
And I believe that's mission test for all.
If you figure it out, you can show me, but I don't know for right now.
I think so.
Thanks,
For a
Becca.
group, right?
Thank you for going through all the actual fine trouble of setting that up.
All right, is it ever going to get there? Yours did get there.
I got something to work with.
Good, good.
Do you want to do it at the end or?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only gonna be like 3% presentations, maybe 4. So we'll be done pretty early this afternoon. And I have a PowerPoint thing for the evening class, and I finish it early too, but they can do open lab to finish.
figuring on coming in Thursday evening for the evening class, just in case I need.
Yeah, I'll be here too. Don't know that anyone else.
Well, if nobody shows up, we can both leave early.
Yes. I'm just curious. I mean, I saw what you got, but I'm not sure what that was.
So the instruction on with the AdventureWorks actually does the same thing. It's like a data map.
They eventually go to the data mining.
I might look into it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious about the
Yeah,
actual use
well,
of data
so,
mining.
and I think they would tell you which statistical model to use. So this is data mining models, I think. Let's see. So this one has decision trees. Algorithm creates a tree structure. It would make sense then to view the result graphically as a tree. And that's what Microsoft does, but we didn't choose that one. Decision tree, so it creates like something like that, where it gives you a decision tree. That's if you choose the tree line. So it's kind of a graph of the charts. And there's a dependency viewer on that. The naive Bayes.
Well, that sounds like he's really naive, though.
I don't understand.
The naive Bayes algorithm deals only with the influence of each individual attribute on the predictable level.
It's been so long since I took stats. And
Yeah, I know, me too. So it has a picture of like number of children at home and whether they're a homeowner, marital status. It goes and does this. So, this is probably the same thing that the wizard takes you through because it's still doing AdventureWorks. And those were fields that we were choosing. Cluster profiles, neural network.
So what has something to do with your brain?
I think it's just it's a way of analyzing dependency network, which is kind of like what some of the NoSQL, the ones that are called graphic, NoSQL graphic, the way they identify every variable as a node and they show you a map of all the relationships between all the nodes. It looks like they have a sequence clustering that'll do that. The trouble is beyond also, I think I may have to stop this at some point, beyond choosing one of these and knowing what variables to give it, you have to be able to look at it and say, does that make sense? And that's a harder thing. There are some predictive things in here. I mean, one of the things you should be able to do is give a probability or predictions out of these in terms of is this sales going to go up, sales going to go down? Is this more likely to be the case or less likely to be the case given the trends? I mean, those are things that can come out of these models. That being said, doing it is why? I mean, well, I guess it's because it's in a virtual machine. It's taking so long. It's definitely worth exploring, and as I said, you guys could probably get to the point where you can understand the basics of it pretty well, and then you could try to expand on it. There are other tools. This is Microsoft's set of tools. It's built into SQL Server, but there are tools similar to this for Oracle. There are a lot of third-party tools that do this kind of thing. There's a lot of third-party tools that do the ETL or whatever it is to the SSIS type stuff.
Would you still have to create the data cubes and.
Typically,
SQL Server.
if you're working with relational data, you typically do create a data cube.
And then the third party, you use the third
In
party.
the third party, you just use third-party software to create that. So you create the data cube and then you use third-party software to model and do works with the cube. When you're doing big data, there's a couple of ways to do this. One is to take all of the relational data, I think, and then the non-relational data and everything else and pump it all into a data cube, which is complicated, right? Because you're bringing in multiple sources and stuff. But your dimensional database will have all the data will be coming from all those different sources, and then you do a cube to analyze it. Another way to do it is you could skip the cube altogether and then just do statistics straight with R or with Python. Right, so instead of building a cube, but you still have to get all the data into the same place. You have to get measures to compare to each other, right? You have to refine the data so that the stuff from the NoSQL and the stuff from the SQL all kind of relates to each other, even whether you build a warehouse or not. And then apply the stats. It's complicated, it's really hard, and that's why they pay good money for it.
Could you conceivably functionally do something similar to this with MySQL?
You could, but MySQL doesn't have these tools in it. You'd have to make third-party tools. Which Oracle might have. I mean, they have them for Oracle. I don't know if they have them for MySQL particularly.
Well, yeah, Oracle MySQL got bought by Oracle.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that they added those tools to MySQL.
Yeah. It's still free if you know.
They might have, though. They do promote MySQL to some extent.
Well, the guy that wrote it and sold it got mad at Oracle, so that's where Mariah came from.
Right. And I don't know if Mariah has these tools or not. Traditionally, MySQL has been used more for content management. That being said, we could probably do this. I'm actually pretty sure you could do it with any relational database, and then if you use third-party tools, it's just a matter of importing the data into those tools. And this isn't moving anymore, is it? I mean, it's still spinning, but what was I going to say? I don't know. I don't know at what point to stop this. Did you find anything else useful in there? No.
Even if those just fill that in, it's like, can we identify this as both being like not statisticians and all?
Well, I think that the time process is supposed to show, it's not a linear regression or anything, but I think it's still supposed to show a trend over time. But I don't know that I chose fields that make sense. It made enough sense that it's doing it, but I think I may just kill it here. I'll give it another 15 minutes and then I'll kill it. So we're essentially done. Do you guys have questions? Things that you would like to go over briefly again or anything? Yeah.
Like, is it super complicated to like encrypt a database in SQL Server?
No, you right click on it and it's encrypted.
You have to like generate a key for it?
It will generate a key.
Oh, no.
It'll give you the key and it'll put it, you have to put it on a thumb drive or a different drive.
Okay.
Which to me isn't that secure, but they won't allow the key to be on the same machine as the server. But yes, it's really easy to encrypt it. The only trouble with encrypting, and actually if you ever take a laptop with like sensitive data or something, you should encrypt it. And actually, with Microsoft, you can encrypt the whole operating system if you want, but then you won't be able to read it unless you have that thumb drive. But it does keep other people from reading it too.
Like a dongle.
Yeah. So it does slow performance
Just so,
because you have to decrypt everything before you, and you have to encrypt and decrypt everything before you can read it.
does it make a difference if you do the encryption before you populate the database in terms of speed?
You know, that's actually a question I'm not sure I know the answer to. I'm sure that there's discussions of that on.
Because I know, like, a general rule of thumb with, like, say, a smartphone like this, like, if you're gonna encrypt this.
I would imagine it would take a while if the data were already there, because it would have to go through all the data and encrypt it, whereas it would just prepare it if it was. Let's go back. I think, let me look at just take a database like Metro Alt properties. And I think it would be like on, is it options? I'm just looking for where to encrypt. We could also do a quick search. Encryption enabled, false. Just turn that to true.
It's on properties.
Yeah,
Under,
under options. Now, I don't know if that makes it encrypt, though. That just enables it, right?
fail.
Well, it failed when you turned it on.
I just did this for, like, I just created, like, a separate test
Oh.
database that doesn't have anything in it, so.
Maybe you have to encrypt. Let me look, because you might. I'm sure you probably have to do a little bit more. I should kill the video.